Crown 86 comes to an end, our finish line. And what a finale we have in store for you. 4 championship races with over $2 million at stake. We're at magnificent new Garden State Park in Cherry Hill, New Jersey for tonight's crowning episode. When the night began, we started with 56 of harness racing's finest trotters and pacers, headed by Redskin in the 2-year-old Colt and gelding pace. Follow My Star is the choice in the 3-year-old filly pace. And the 3-year-old Colt and gelding trot seems like a rematch of the Hambletonian, with Royal Prestige and Nuclear Cosmos battling for the title. And finally, Amity Chef looms the favorite in the 3-year-old Colt and gelding pace. If you've ever spent an evening at a racetrack featuring harness racing, you know the fun and excitement in store for you tonight. If you've never been to a harness track, stay tuned. For what we have here this evening is the best of the sport. Showcased in 12 races they call the Breeders' Crown Series, it concludes tonight with a spectacular 4-race finale. Hello, everyone. I'm Dave Johnson, and welcome to the glamour divisions of our game. Quite simply, it is the biggest night in the sport for the standardbred set. It's like the Super Bowl and the World Series and the Academy Awards all rolled into one. Now, if you're not familiar with the vocabulary or the stars or the handicapping, we have terrific help on the broadcast this evening, a 2-hour program, by the way. Keith Jones, track announcer here at Garden State, will be calling the action. Trainer Alan Kirschenbaum will handle the analysis and the intricacies of the game, and another trainer, Ellie Sarama, is here to guide us through the evening. And Ellie, first of all, what about this cold weather, and what factor will that play in the game this evening?
Well, cold weather is always a factor, Dave. When you're dealing with this kind of weather, we'll see maybe slower miles tonight, but there's an old theory that really hasn't been proven yet. The Colts don't like the cold weather, and the fillies do, but this is ridiculous.
Now, on our stops, we've been to the half miles and the 5/8 mile tracks, and one time at Canterbury to the mile track. It's a mile track here at Garden State, and what are we looking for in the races at the mile track?
Well, there still is a difference between post position 1 and 10, but for some reason on a mile track, everybody has a chance. There's always a lot of movement, and there isn't a chance for a driver to get to the front and usually back down the quarter. We will be seeing a lot of movement in these races.
And we saw a lot of action earlier in the evening because we had eliminations, and here to tell you about that in the first division is our colleague, Alan Kirschenbaum.
Thank you, Dave. This division has drawn overflow fields every year of the Breeders' Crown. The 2-year-old Colt pace, usually the largest amount of horses assembled. We had 2 divisions tonight, 10 horses in each, and we'll look at the divisions right now. The first division, Maximilian Hanover. Dale Insko driving, made the turn for home. He had been used twice through a 56 3/2, and he was digging in. But Track Robbery and Pete Rosito took dead aim in the middle of the track. He looks like he has it measured as Newcomb and Meadow Branch Brett are trying to close in on the outside. Right here, Track Robbery looks like he's got things locked up, but he's going to get rough gated here, make a break right at the wire, and that'll award the victory to Maximilian Hanover. Track Robbery, Newcomb, Meadow Branch Brett also make the final. The second division had an outstanding colt in it in Redskin. He is a terrific colt. There you see the winner, Maximilian Hanover, winning in 155 3. The top 4 finishers, once again, who will go on to the final, Maximilian Hanover, Track Robbery, Meadow Branch Brett, and Newcomb. They'll be back soon. The second division had that outstanding colt I was talking about. His name is Redskin. He was 2 5, and he made the turn on top, and he will begin to lengthen his advantage here. Long shot Savage Breeze enjoyed a very good trip, sitting in the 2-hole. You'll see him pacing steadily on the outside, and from far back, here comes a real long shot and a sleeper. Sunset Warrior closing a ton of ground towards the end. Run the Table, also from the Del Insko stable, as was the first heat winner. He had a little bit of pace at the end of it in 4th, but Redskin and Billy O'Donnell, they win it in 155 3 with a very snappy last quarter of 28 1. Once again, the top 4 from that division, Redskin, Savage Breeze, Sunset Warrior, Run the Table. Let's go back to Dave Johnson.
Okay, let's take a look now at the current odds for this 2-year-old Colt and gelding pace. We have an entry of Maximilian Hanover and Run the Table, and 5 to 1 on that pair. Redskin is 3 to 5. Then we have Track Robbery at 8 and 8. Also the price on Savage Breeze. Sunset Warrior is at 10. As you see, Meadow Brett and Newcomb also at 8 to 1. So that's the first race that we're going to be watching. It's the 5th race on the card here at Garden State Park. Don't go away. We'll be back with more after this.
What horse in tonight's Breeders' Crown set a world record in his first lifetime parimutuel start?
Up on the outside, here comes Wilco's Data from far back, fourth, now third. Wilco's Data on the move now, third, as they hit the 3/4 in 1:20.
No horse in harness racing history had ever paced a sub-159 mile on a 5/8 mile track until his third lifetime start, until Wilco's Data won the 1985 Shelley Goudreau Memorial Pace at Windsor Raceway in 1:58 4 in his parimutuel debut.
Welcome back to Garden State on a chilly November evening for Breeders' Crown 86, and the 2-year-old Pacers are on the track. Let's take a look at the field for this one. Here we go with number 1, Maximilian Hanover, Del Insco drives. Ellie?
He went a tremendous mile in his elimination. He cut the mile and was only beaten the last few steps. He finished second and was placed first because of a left-on break at the wire by track robbery, and definitely deserves a second look in here.
And Del Insco, by the way, had his choice, and he picked Maximilian Hanover over this horse, Run the Table, 1A with Ron Waples, who picks up the mount.
Well, racing mainly in Jersey Sires, this colt put in a big effort having the 10-hole. He managed to hang on for fourth, but the post position is going to be a disadvantage.
And number 2, Redskin. Bill O'Donnell drives and the heavy favorite.
This colt is just phenomenal. He's earned over $1 million, by far the colt to beat in this field. He had an easy race. He just drew off in his elimination. I think he's definitely the best.
Number 3, and from post 3 is Track Robbery with Peter Aceto.
He's banked over $150,000, and in his elimination, he had the race won easily until he made an abrupt break at the wire. He was placed second. He has to put on a better performance than that if he wants to be a factor.
How about Savage Breeze, the 4-horse with Benny Webster?
He has only one race won this year, which came in his last start in a condition race. He's managed to finish second in his elimination, and he ends up with a decent post, and that'll help him.
And Sunset Warrior is number 5 and right behind in the post parade on the screen now.
A surprise to everyone, I'm sure, to make the final. He sat last and had plenty of pace to finish third. He's only had 6 starts before tonight, and with that, he's only been defeated twice. He could be any kind of colt.
And with Bill Gale driving, who's not getting the publicity that the big-name drivers get, but he certainly is talented. And here is Meadow Branch Brett, the 6-horse with Buddy Gilmore.
Well, he is one of the top big-money drivers in the sport, and this colt has been racing quite well. He came from off the pace in his elimination to finish third, but he still has his work cut out for him.
And number 7 is Newcomb with John Campbell.
An outstanding colt on the New Jersey Sire Stakes circuit. He had a perfect trip, but he really came up empty.
Ellie, a quick word about a horse that, if you were following the 2-year-old division, you would have been listening to Jate Lobel being talked about. Why isn't Jate in the field this evening?
Unfortunately, he's not eligible to the Breeders' Crown, and he wasn't eligible to a lot of the major stakes events. He was, however, in the Jersey Sire Stakes. He went undefeated this year. He's a tremendous colt. Probably the reason being, Dave, usually when you're breaking a 2-year-old, the big stake payments come early in the year before the horse gets into a serious training schedule.
Well, as we mentioned earlier, one of the greatest 2-year-olds in pacing history not here. That's Jate Lobel, but one of the great ones is here, and Alan Kirschenbaum takes a look at these 2 stars.
There's a chance that 1986 may best be remembered as the year that Jate Lobel first set foot on the racetrack. As spectacular a freshman as has ever been seen, this performance, just 1/5 of a second off Nihilator's world record on a surface much less than fast, has to be considered one of the most impressive efforts ever recorded. He is the strong favorite for divisional honors and a very legitimate Horse of the Year candidate. In his absence, the Redskin has taken the scalps from his competition, and in recent weeks, including this courageous score in the Governor's Cup here at Garden State Park, he has become a legitimate threat to Jate Lobel's divisional hopes. He has danced every dance, fought every fight, and has socked away well over $1 million in the process. I spoke with Redskins owner and trainer Jerry Smith last night, and he believes his protege has proven himself on the field of battle. With a win in the Breeders' Crown, do you think that Redskin deserves to be voted 2-year-old pacing colt of the year?
Well, I'm not sure I understand how they vote. You know, there's Redskin obviously has made the most money. If he does a little good tomorrow night, he'll be the high money winner of any 2-year-old ever, which I think certainly deserves a lot of credit. Another colt has got a faster record than Redskin or Jate Lobel. So I'm not sure what they're looking for. A colt that has raced against all of the colts all year and made the most money, I think certainly deserves some consideration.
Would you vote for him?
Yes, I certainly would.
Now, what about Redskin's chances in the Breeders' Crown? How's he coming up to the race?
Well, he's trained perfect. You know, it's like I say, he started in May, and he's raced tough right through. These colts has got to start getting tired pretty quick. That's a long season for a 2-year-old. This is pretty late to be racing 2-year-old. Latest I've ever raced a colt. So you never know when they're going to start tailing off a little bit. But he certainly looks like he's come into this race in good shape.
He seems to like the track here at Garden State too.
Yeah, he's handled this track pretty well.
And Redskin is warming up right now for the 5th race. The 2-year-old Colts and Geldings will be on the pace for this mile event in the Breeders' Crown after we take this brief timeout. And welcome back to frigid Cherry Hill, New Jersey and Garden State Racetrack. You know, the 2-year-old pacing colts have given us the greatest thrills in this short but rich Breeders' Crown history. Let's go back now and relive the excitement of this division with Breeders' Crown competition from '84 and '85.
By 2 1/4, Annihilator on the outside, Pershing Square on the outside, Broadway Express, less than an 8. It's Dragon's Lair by 2 1/2. Here comes Annihilator and Broadway Express. Dragon's Lair, Annihilator, Dragon's Lair wins the Breeders' Crown.
World Caliber is the leader. Stepping to the outside, Barbarian Spur in second. Souffle, he's tight third. Into the action, Smolsky Mark now fourth. Cash Asset backs out fifth. Tijuana Blue Chip off the turn and down the stretch. As they drive for the wire, World Caliber on the inside. Barbarian Spur on the outside. They're headed, and here they are.
Well, we have the advantage of having watched these horses in competition earlier this evening in the eliminations. Ellie, what'd you think of those elims?
Well, I really was impressed by Redskin's performance. Of course, Billy O'Donnell drove him excellent. He went to the front and he backed off the 3rd quarter, of course, and just cruised home. But I was also impressed by Track Robbery, who ended up making a break at the wire. And if he wouldn't have made the break, he was the winner of the race. Another horse that really caught my eye was Maximilian Hanover, because he cut the mile. He also cut his mile, and he just did get beat at the wire. So I was very impressed by his performance.
You know, Ellie, as a trainer, maybe you could bring us in on the inside of 2-year-old racing, training them and racing them, especially at this time of the year.
Well, 2-year-olds are really exciting. When you first break them, you have so much anticipation and so much hope. I myself had a young filly that, I made all the stake payments, unlike Jate Lobel. I made all the stake payments, and unfortunately, my filly died in April. But then again, there's the glory of the business, too. You can make all your stake payments and come here and be the 3 to 5 shot in the Breeders' Crown.
Well, right now, let's pick up on that 3 to 5, and let's find out what Alan thinks of this field, and especially Redskin. What's your analysis, Alan?
This is going to be a superb race. We've seen how the 2-year-old pacing colts have provided great thrills in the past, and I think you'll see very much more of the same tonight. 8 horses on a mile track is among the most exciting races you'll ever see because everybody has a shot. And when we're talking about shots tonight in this race, we're certainly talking about Redskin. Billy O'Donnell will be steering him, and he has the 2-hole. Maximilian Hanover, you saw how aggressive Del Insco handled his colt. He's drawn the rail, and he will be leaving out of there gangbusters. And I don't think you'll see Billy O'Donnell try to step around Maximilian Hanover at the beginning. I think he'll settle Redskin a little bit. But the other horses that I was impressed with in the eliminations, Track Robbery was very, very strong and very, very tough, and he did beat Maximilian Hanover, although he lost his footing late in the mile. I don't think the same thing will happen to him. Sunset Warrior, who a lot of people had been touting as the fresh horse, the good long shot, he hadn't raced very much in stakes competition before tonight. Well, he had a lot of pace at the end of the mile off a very easy trip into a very fast last quarter that Redskin posted. The way I think the race will be run is Maximilian Hanover will bust out of there, and he will scare off a lot of the leavers, although a couple of horses from the outside, perhaps Newcomb, who really didn't have much pace in his heat, he'll leave also. But Redskin will be on the move early. O'Donnell's not one to wait very long, and he will send his charge to the front where a 1 to 5 shot should be, and that's what he is on the board right now. Track Robbery and Sunset Warrior, they'll have pace at the end of the mile, but I do think that Redskin is the best horse, and I think we'll be talking to Billy O'Donnell in a couple of minutes. Dave, let's go back to you.
Well, we might be talking with Billy O'Donnell, but let's take a look at the odds and see what you'd be collecting at the windows. The entry, 11-1 for you bargain hunters who get Maximilian Hanover and Run the Table Together. And Redskin at 1-5. I don't know if you got the 5. What do you need the 1 for? And I wonder if there are any bridge jumpers out there, people betting a lot of money to show. I guess we'll check that out. Current odds also show that Track Robbery and Savage Breeze are up there, and Meadow Warriors getting some support at 7-1. Ellie, how come we only have 8 coming back into this into the finale here for the 2-year-olds?
Well, first of all, when you have eliminations and they draw for the final, it's a USTA rule that only the 4 come back. And you know what, Dave? An 8-horse field on a mile track, it really provides for good racing because everybody really has a shot in here.
Now, what about heat racing, though? Have these horses expended themselves already? Have they got something left?
Well, some of these colts have been heat racing before, but I think most of the drivers know that they have to come back for a second heat, and I think they can serve their colts as best as possible. Of course, they wanted to get in the final, so the ones that had to use their colts harder, of course, they may not have as much left.
And we've talked about the great horses here this evening, but the drivers are here too, and drivers who've been successful in previous Breeders' Crown achievements.
Well, of course, like we always bring up Billy O'Donnell, he won 2 his first year, 2 his second year, 1 this year. John Campbell won 1 race in the first year of the Breeders' Crowns event, 4 last year, and only 1 this year. But an interesting note, Dave, not one of these drivers have repeated a win. We've had 8 different events and 8 different drivers.
That's for 1986. And one thing we're going to be keeping a tally on is the O'Donnell-Campbell rivalry. And, of course, you'll be meeting them a little bit later in the show. O'Donnell has 5 Breeders' Crown wins to his credit. Campbell has 6. So let's see what happens here, and we'll see if O'Donnell ties Campbell at 6 apiece. The horses have been called to the starting gate, and it's about time for you to make your final choices as we take a look at these 2-year-olds moving behind the gate. And we're just about ready now to go to the top of the stands. And here's Keith Jones with the call of tonight's 5th race. It's for 2-year-olds, Colts and Geldings on the pace.
And they're off. Along the inside is Maximilian Hanover. Sunset Warrior driving hard for the outside. Savage Breeze is right there in between horses. And Redskin at the rail. They move into the first turn, and from in between horses, Maximilian Hanover emerges with the lead. Sunset Warrior now gaining park down second. Redskin has come away third. Moving up to the outside, Savage Breeze parked down fourth. Track Robbery in the 5th spot, followed next by Meadow Branch Brett. Then it's Newcomb and the early trailer Run the Table. They pace the first quarter in a flat 28 seconds. They're now up the back stretch, and Maximilian Hanover with the lead, but just briefly, Savage Breeze now with a quick rush. Savage Breeze up to take charge. Maximilian Hanover is back to second. Sunset Warrior third. It's a gap of 2.5 to Redskin. Redskin is fourth at this stage, at about 5 lengths off the lead. Track Robbery follows next in the 5th spot. That is Meadow Branch Brett. Newcomb is into the outside flow, and Run the Table is the trailer. Sunset Warrior up to take charge. They're halfway home in 56-3. They're moving at a good clip as they hit the far turn. Sunset Warrior in command by just a length. Savage Breeze right there second. Maximilian Hanover on the move again. He's off the rail, parked out third. Redskin has picked up cover. He's still about 2.5 lengths back. Meadow Branch Brett to the inside is gaining. Then it's Track Robbery, Newcomb, and Run the Table. They approach the 3/4. Sunset Warrior still there by 3 parts to a length. Maximilian Hanover second, and Redskin now tipping 3 wide. 3/4 in 1:26-4. They're into the stretch, and Redskin now surging on the outside. Redskin now hooked up with Sunset Warrior. They're just heads apart. Savage Breeze looking to close to the inside. Less than an 8 to come, and on the inside, hanging on, Sunset Warrior. Redskin trying to get to him. He won't do it tonight. An upset victory for Sunset Warrior.
And Bill Gale, who was third in North America in terms of dashes won with 470 last year, adds probably the biggest win of his career as Bill Gale guides Sunset Warrior to victory here and beating the big horse Redskin. That's the story here as Sunset Warrior pulls the upset.
You know what's amazing, Dave? This colt only had 6 starts up in until now with 4 wins and 2 seconds to his credit, and it's amazing how these 2-year-olds can come on late in the year. Redskin really had a perfect trip in here. It was the second over trip, and really no excuse for him. Sunset Warrior going an absolute tremendous mile.
But just to give you some idea of the great year that Redskin's having, by finishing second, he will now move ahead of Annihilator in terms of 2-year-old earnings, which was set back in '84. So it is a tremendous year for Redskin, even if he finishes second in the Breeders' Crown event. And let's watch the stretch drive again as Sunset Warrior just hangs too tough.
He really was tough. He was a game Colt right to the wire. Both drivers are working on their horses, but Sunset Warrior hanging the gamest of all. I think Billy O'Donnell here at one point thought he still had the race won, but he starts working on the Colt. The Colt just doesn't respond. He bears in a little bit, making it harder for Billy to steer the Colt, but Sunset Warrior, an unbelievable mile by him, 1:55 and 3.
And the margin of victory, a tight length there, as Sunset Warrior is coming back to the winner's circle here at Garden State. And we'll come back to Garden State after these messages from the folks that make it all possible. Stay with us. And welcome back to Surprise City as the big 1-to-5 shot Redskin goes down to defeat in the 5th race, which was the first of our televised races, the final for the 2-year-old Colts on the pace. And let's take a look at the official prices here as Sunset Warrior, a mild upset there at $13.20, $3.40 and $2.60. Redskin, big money place and show, $2.20 and $2.10. And Maximilian Hanover pays $2.80 to show. The final time for this one, 1:55 and 3, a monster mile for the 2-year-old. And now let's go over to Alan Kirschenbaum.
I'm in the winner's circle with Bill Gale, who has done a phenomenal job guiding Sunset Warrior to a Breeders' Crown victory. We have a slight problem here, and that our monitor is out, and we might not be able to go to a replay. But, Billy, this has got to be the biggest win in your career.
Definitely, by far.
Sunset Warrior, a very lightly raced Colt, coming into the race today. We're going to pick up the action on the backstretch, except that we cannot, our monitors are out. Once again, I apologize for that. And Sunset Warrior going right to the front. Billy, when you pulled him, did you really think you had a shot to win the race and beat Redskin?
My horse raced awful good the first heat, was really live at the wire. And we came a long ways with him. When we came to race, I was going to give him a chance.
Trainer Bobby McIntosh obviously had the horse sharp. Now, Redskin, when he gets around the turn and pulls 3 wide, did you really think you had a lot of horse left after going those fast fractions?
My horse was still pretty live, and he raced awful game through the stretch. Redskin had him collared early in the stretch, and they went like a team to the wire. My colt hung tough.
They're coming down the stretch, and your horse is digging in, and he's under a full drive. Billy O'Donnell is really going to work on Redskin, although he really thought he might have won. He was probably a little surprised by how tough your colt was. Were you surprised by how tough your colt was?
No, I wasn't surprised at all. That colt in New York last week won a tremendous race and won easily. Finished live in the first heat, and he didn't surprise me at all.
Sunset Warrior digging in there to win the Breeders' Crown, 2-year-old Colt pace. Congratulations to Bill Gale, trainer Bobby McIntosh, and let's go back to Dave Johnson.
And Delvin Miller, the Hall of Fame driver, who is really the harness racing ambassador of goodwill, is in the winner's circle making the trophy presentation for this one. And the 2-year-old pace goes to Sunset Warrior. But we'll be back with much more action from Garden State after these messages.